Have you ever noticed that when an airplane lands, the back wheels always touch the runway first? Whether it's a tiny regional jet or a massive airliner carrying hundreds of passengers, the sequence is almost always the same. The rear landing gear makes contact first, followed by the front wheel a moment later. It might seem like a simple habit, but it's actually one of the most important techniques in aviation. Landing nose first would put enormous stress on the aircraft, reduce the pilot's control, and could even cause serious accidents. So why is landing on the rear wheels considered the safest way? And how did this become the standard for modern aviation? Let's find out right here on History of Simple Things. In the earliest days of aviation, many airplanes didn't even have the landing gear arrangement we're familiar with today. Aircraft like the Wright Flyer used skids instead of wheels, while many airplanes built during the 1910s through the 1940s were tail draggers. These aircraft had two main wheels near the front of the fuselage and a small wheel, or even just a skid, at the tail. Tail draggers naturally landed on their main wheels first because the tail already sat low to the ground. As aviation advanced, engineers introduced the tricycle landing gear layout with two large main landing gears near the aircraft's center of gravity and a smaller nose wheel in front. This design greatly improved visibility during taxiing, reduced the risk of tipping forward during braking, and made takeoffs and landings easier for pilots. Despite the new configuration, one rule remained unchanged. The main landing gear should always touch the runway before the nose wheel. The biggest reason airplanes land on their rear wheels first comes down to balance. The large landing gears under the wings or fuselage aren't actually at the back of the airplane. They're positioned very close to its center of gravity. This is where most of the aircraft's weight is concentrated. When the main landing gear touches down first, it absorbs the aircraft's weight in the strongest possible location. The landing gear is designed with heavy-duty shock absorbers called oleo struts, which compress during touchdown and soften the impact. Once the aircraft's speed decreases, the nose gently lowers until the front wheel contacts the runway. If the nose wheel touched first while the airplane was still descending, it would have to absorb forces it was never designed to handle. The nose gear is much lighter than the main landing gear because its primary job is steering while taxiing, not carrying the aircraft's full landing loads. Touching down on the main landing gear first also gives pilots far more control over the airplane. As the aircraft approaches the runway, the pilot slightly raises the nose in a maneuver called the landing flare. This reduces the descent rate just before touchdown, creating a smoother landing. During this phase, the wings are still producing some lift, meaning not all of the aircraft's weight is pressing on the landing gear immediately. Because the wings continue generating lift for a few seconds after touchdown, the aircraft settles naturally onto its main wheels before the nose lowers. This gradual transfer of weight makes the landing more stable and predictable. If the nose wheel touched first, the airplane could bounce back into the air or pitch dangerously, making it much harder for the pilot to regain control. The front landing gear is surprisingly delicate compared to the main landing gear. Although it looks sturdy, the nose gear mainly supports the aircraft while it's moving on the ground. It allows pilots to steer during taxiing and helps keep the aircraft level while parked. It isn't built to withstand the enormous vertical impact that occurs during landing. A typical commercial jet may weigh anywhere from 70 to over 400 metric tons when landing, depending on the aircraft. The vast majority of that force is intended to be absorbed by the reinforced main landing gear. Landing nose first could overload the nose gear, causing structural damage or, in severe cases, the gear to collapse entirely. Landing on the rear wheels first also allows the aircraft's braking systems to work more effectively. Modern airliners use several methods to slow down after touchdown: wheel brakes, spoilers on the wings, reverse thrust from the engines, and aerodynamic drag all work together. The wheel brakes are mounted on the main landing gear, not the nose wheel. By touching down on the main gear first, the airplane transfers its weight onto the wheels that actually provide braking power. At nearly the same moment, spoilers automatically deploy on top of the wings. These panels destroy the remaining lift, pressing the aircraft more firmly onto the main wheels and giving the brakes better grip against the runway. Only after the aircraft has slowed sufficiently does the pilot gently lower the nose wheel onto the runway. If you've ever watched airplanes landing on windy days, you may have noticed something interesting. Sometimes one rear wheel touches the runway before the other. This is completely normal. Strong crosswinds try to push the airplane sideways. Pilots compensate by either slightly banking the aircraft into the wind or pointing the nose slightly into the wind, a technique called a crab approach, before straightening out just before touchdown. Even in these challenging conditions, pilots still aim to land on the main landing gear first. Sometimes one main wheel contacts the runway just fractions of a second before the other, but the nose wheel remains off the ground until the airplane is stable. This technique reduces stress on the aircraft and helps maintain directional control throughout the landing roll. The next time you watch an airplane land, pay close attention to those last few seconds before touchdown. What looks like a simple sequence is actually the result of decades of engineering and countless hours of pilot training. By landing on the main landing gear first, the aircraft protects its nose gear, absorbs landing forces where it's strongest, maintains better control, and allows its braking systems to work exactly as designed. It's one of those details most passengers never notice, yet it's happening on virtually every commercial flight around the world. Every smooth landing is a carefully choreographed process where physics, engineering, and pilot skill come together, and it all begins with those rear wheels meeting the runway first. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.